Once upon a time, there was a poor woman named Sarah. She lives in a small rented house with her 8-year-old son, Tommy. Sarah had been looking for a job for a long time, but luck had not been on her side. The rent for the house had piled up, and they were on the verge of losing their home. Sarah felt helpless, not knowing where to turn. She had no family or friends to ask for help, except for one man named Joe. Joe had once been a close family friend, but over the years, his bad choices had driven a wedge between them. Sarah and her late husband had grown to resent Joe for the trouble he often caused. Joe was an unreliable fellow who often made reckless decisions. He struggled with addiction and had been in and out of trouble with the law. The once friendly relationship between the two families had soured, and Joe's deceased father had come to despise him as well. Desperation led Sarah to approach Joe, despite their strained history. She begged him for help, explaining that she had only 2 days left before they would be evicted. Joe, who had always been mistreated and rejected by her family, listened to her and kept quiet. Then he looked at her and promised to come up with the money in 2 days. Sarah knew his past. She knew the kind of man he was, but she had no choice. She left with a mixed feeling of hope and doubt. The next day, Sarah had to buy some groceries for her and Tommy. They went to the local grocery store, hoping to stretch their meager funds as far as possible. But fate had something else in store for them. As they stood in the store, 2 masked gunmen burst in, frightening everyone. The robbers demanded money and valuables, waving their guns threateningly. One of the robbers, in a moment of carelessness, dropped his mask for just a second and thought Tommy, being curious, saw the face beneath. Terrified, Tommy tried to hide behind a shelf, but the robber spotted him. He pointed his gun at the frightened boy. Tommy's mother, Sarah, couldn't bear to see her son in danger. With quick thinking, she grabbed something heavy from a nearby shelf and struck the robber on the head. The impact made the robber stumble, and Sarah seized the opportunity to grab Tommy's hand and rush out of the store. She didn't look back, fearing for their lives, but she knew they had narrowly escaped a terrible situation. A long day was finally over, and another was waiting behind. The last day to submit past due rent arrived, and Sarah anxiously waited for Joe to show up with the promised help. From her past experiences, she had a hunch he wouldn't honor his word. Hours passed, and he was nowhere to be found. Desperate, worried, and upset, she went to Joe's place to find answers. She saw a man there she never met before. "I'm Joe's friend," he introduced himself. "Oh," Sarah said. "I am looking for Joe. I am his family friend," she explained. "Actually, I'm in a situation, and I must see him now." The guy looked at her and said nothing. "Please, I need to see him," Sarah insisted. The guy remained quiet. He was reluctant to say anything, but then he looked at her again and said, "If you keep it between us, I would tell you about him." Sarah desperately said, "Yes. Please trust me. It will remain between us." The guy looked far into the sky and said, "I don't know why he desperately wanted to do that. He got me involved too, and he shook his head. He was attacked by someone and he could not survive. It was our failed robbery attempt at the neighborhood grocery store.